Hello and welcome to another episode of Ask SoulBird. My name is Roberta and I'm really glad to see you here again. So today's question is, and I'm going to break this one down into a couple of sections because it was a question within a question within a question. So thank you for this one. The first one I'm going to start with is, can you describe your meditation practice and how you reach your journey state? Okay, so the way that I reach my journey state has been taught to me via my pathway of living shamanically. So I have explored this for many different years with different teachers that share it in different ways. But in essence, the really shortest answer of this is moving into an altered state of consciousness. Now, I hear in your question, you're asking, how do I get into that state? Now, for me, because I've been practicing this for a while, I am able to move into an altered state of consciousness quite quickly. And so it doesn't require the same amount of effort that I needed to do some years ago, which was to get myself into that state. So what I'm going to share with you is actually how I began my journey and what is helpful for other people who are learning about shamanism or moving into altered states of consciousness, which I also want to add is best to be done with a practitioner or with someone. So when I began my journey of learning and practicing ways of moving into an altered state of consciousness, this was explored through a few different outlets, and I'm going to break them down, and they are the very basics of core shamanism, which is cross-cultural shamanism. So we are drawing upon practices that will have been found in many different cultures. And so what we are doing in core shamanism is plucking out the similarities of different cultures and seeing what it is that humans do to access these profound states of potent medicine. Journeying, the different methods that people over centuries have used. You don't need to look very far to see these practices actually being unfolding in the world around us, and not just in religious communities either. So, number one, to move into altered states, often people will use rhythm, they will use a drum, they might use a rattle. And the reason for this, which was fortified in my learnings when I studied to become a sound healer, I'm just wondering about picking up my drum right now. Sorry, not my rattle. My drum here, my beautiful drum, which will probably be quite loud next to the microphone. But so people often use something like a drum to enter into altered states of consciousness. And the reason for this is because, as has been studied, when you have a repetitive beat, for instance, like this, for a sustained period of time, it allows for our brain waves to calm down, to slow down, and we enter into a state of a theta brainwave state. Now, from a sound healer's perspective, if I was to keep drumming like that for a longer period of time, they would call this entrainment. And you could also do this with a shakapa like this. This is a homemade bamboo one, and you could use a normal rattle. It could be done with many different types of instruments. The essence of it is the repetition. And if something is being beaten, like the drum, again and again and again, dun 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 dun, then your brain can entrain to that particular rhythm. And you have to experience this to understand it. It's not woo-woo, it's not magic. There is a scientific background to this, which is to do with our brainwave state. So it allows us to enter into a more relaxed state of being. And this is really key, and this is always key to my work to this day. Relaxation is necessary to do this work. If you are tense and if you are tight and if you are sensing a resistance in the body, the flow of entering that altered state is not going to flow well for you. So relaxation. Some people use the rhythm of instruments like this. Some people also use the voice. Now, I really love using the voice, and often I am merging with spirit and spirits in order to call them in, to work with them in sacred space, in ceremony, to do my paintings, my shamanic medicine paintings. From that perspective, when I am using the voice, which I don't want to say is singing as such, because that can be a trigger word for a lot of people. Often we think, I can't sing, I don't sing in tune, I can't do that. It's not about tunefulness. It is about connecting with the spirit that is moving you in those moments. And when I use the voice, I'm doing it to channel a particular song that is going to help me enter into a state of relaxation, a state of holiness, a state of the hollow bone, which I will speak about in a different video. This is about emptying yourself so that you are so clear to be able to do the work ahead, to fulfill the task that you have set your intention to do. And so a song may come to you. And often I find in my practice that when a song comes through, it is repetitive again. So there is a similarity about using the beautiful drum, repetitive, and there is a sense of hypnotic repetition about it, which is for you and you alone to enter into that state of relaxation. And it is doing exactly the same thing. It is relaxing those brain waves, bringing them down to a state where you are able to access the imaginal realm. And it is in this state that maybe you have already experienced. I can hazard a guess that you actually have experienced this state, because we enter into it often when we are daydreaming. We enter into it when we are moving from awakened state into a sleeping state. And it is sometimes the most creative spaces that we are bathing in when we are just in that space of falling asleep, and our brain, our mind, and to me, our spirit starts to awaken. Our creativity starts to awaken, and so new ideas and ways of looking at things, the world of problem solving, starts to bubble up to the surface. And so this is key in entering into that journey practice that you asked about. So we've got rhythm, we've got the voice, and we also have movement. Now, it's not always a practice that I do when I am sitting to do my artwork, my shamanic medicine painting. However, when I am moving into an altered state of consciousness to be able to journey, I do like to use movement, to use the body in a way that is going to help the facilitation of that relaxation. And so I'm coming back to the same word again and again and again. It's about relaxation. If you are tight in the body, you are tight in the mind, that flow of that channeling state will will butt up against blockages and rigidity, and you want to shake that out of your body first. So if you are finding it hard to drop from that place in your mental state, your thinking mind, into the place of the heart. The heart is the seer's eye, the shaman's eye. Then one thing I would encourage you to do if you're struggling is to do something with the body. And maybe you have your own practice. Maybe it is a simple exercise. Maybe you have your own moving practice that you'd like to do. From my perspective, actually shaking, and it is as simple as it sounds, shake the body. Just stand up, feet firmly on the ground beneath you. Feel your roots going down really deep into the earth. And just begin to shake your body out, your arms, your head, your shoulders, roll them. This is about finding fluidity in your body. And the reason for that is because you are mirroring what you are about to do. You are about to embark upon a journey which is accessing your deeply creative, imaginal selves. It is about activating those deeply imaginative, creative cells within you. You are waking them up by moving into this altered state of consciousness. And so by creating fluidity in the body, and that is about moving the body the way that it needs to, then from that place, you may find that you are already entering into a state of altered consciousness. And you may find that you want to continue this movement practice, not for a minute, not for 2 minutes, not for 5 minutes. You might want to do this for at least 15 to 20 minutes of just moving your body in your own space. This isn't about how you look, what it looks like. It's not for show. You're not here to look sexy. You're not here to throw some some poses around. You're here to do it for the sake of the soul, for the sake of expanding your awareness that you are more than just a physical body. You are spirit, and you have more than just mental space. You have the connecting energetics that complement our mind. We have the holy mind as well. And so we are using these practices to expand into that space. So you would be moving your body for 5, 10, 15 minutes, longer if you wish for. From that place, if you were going to be doing what I do, which I don't do so often, as I've said, I don't often use a movement practice when I'm sitting down to paint for my shamanic medicine artworks. But if you were going to, you would do your movement practice, and then you would sit quietly for a minute or two before allowing your spirit to paint, to draw, to express whatever it is that's flowing through you in that moment. One thing I do want to say is very important to the practice that I do, and that is having a very clear intention of what you are doing and why you are doing it. If you are actively moving into altered states of consciousness, you want to do it from a conscious and aware place, and therewith a safe space. Now, it would take too long for me to get into the energetics of safety, of protection, but if you are doing any kind of spirit work, it's very important that you set up your space correctly, and that you have set up your psyche, your soul, and your understanding of the cosmology around you before you engage with work like this. And it's for your own benefit. So it's a process. So if I can just describe what my current practice is when I move into that journey state. At times, I will use, if I'm painting at the same time, I will use a drumming track. I will use a track that I have created of myself drumming, and I will continue to paint whilst I am listening to that track. I also use shamanic medicine music to paint as well. And so obviously there is the preparation for that work, which may well be drumming myself, moving or singing. But the actual creating of my artwork, the altered state needs to be sustained. This is about maintaining focus. So one thing I like to do is being very mindful of what I'm listening to whilst I am painting. And so I can highly recommend the artist Larimar Sound Alchemy. I am often listening to his music whilst I am painting because it has an energy about it that keeps you in this flow and relaxed state. And, you know, I believe that is so because he uses a drone in much of his music. And from learning to be a sound therapist, a drone that is a sustained note that is the foundation of all the other creations that he places upon it. It's like he's painting with sound. The foundation is the thing that you are entraining yourself to. This is calm and smooth, and it allows for your consciousness to ease into the work. So again, I'm coming back to that sense of relaxation. It is so important because when we are relaxed and when we have slowed ourselves down to access peace, we are able to leave our baggage at the door and deal with what's right in front of us for whatever piece of work, whatever healing work you are doing for yourself or someone else. We are able to be. We are not in the thinking mind, we are able to be. Now, another practice that I would like to share with you before I go, that is about reaching my journey state, and that is about silence. It is the opposite of what I've been sharing with you. It is about silence. And one of the things that I do before I start any of my shamanic healing work or my shamanic medicine paintings is to center myself. And the way that I do that is by simply closing my eyes. Now, this sounds really, really profoundly simple. It is. But when you connect the dots of the symbolism of what it means to close your eyes, what are we doing? We are closing out, we are closing the shutters of the external world. And what we are doing is allowing our eyes to turn inward. And so I take my time with this. We close our eyes so that we may see more clearly. And once the eyes have turned inward, I allow my awareness to drop from this space down, 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 until we have reached the heart. And this takes practice. I think people rush this and they underestimate the power of silence and stillness to be able to access those journey states. And so once we have reached the heart is the eye of the seer. And this is what I do for a living. It is about activating and cultivating and refining the ways of seeing, the old ancient ways of seeing. And so once I have reached that space, my eyes are closed, but my heart's eye opens. And I do this with the flight of the imagination. You know, if you were trying this yourself, you can imagine the heart eye opening. Picture the eyelids opening, the eyelashes opening, moving left, right, forward, opening, opening, opening. And when I have reached that point, I allow myself, again with the flight of my imagination, to perceive life force being breathed in and out of this particular heart space. It is as if my heart has become my lungs, my way of breathing. And this is so deeply symbolic for me personally, because it is the emphasis that we are inviting spirit, which is breath, more deeply into our space, into my space. This is what I'm doing. And of course, I'm sharing this practice with you. It is what I do. It is not necessarily a practice that will be for everyone. It might resonate with some of you. It might not activate anything within you. But for me, this is my practice. And so it is as if breath comes into this space and is released from this space. And I spend quite some time allowing myself to receive and to give. And I reach this place of it's like an offering, a feeding in all good and sacred ways, a feeding of this particular space in my body, my physical body and my energetic body. It awakens the seer's eyes, and eventually I reach a place where I can sense that breath not just coming in through the heart, but also through the pores of my body, and being released through the pores of my body. And so it is with this exciting, I always find it exciting practice, that I enable myself to connect more deeply, number one, with myself and my body, but my spirit as well. And once I have those connections really deeply anchored, I am able to then take the next step, which is to, whether I am drumming, whether I'm listening to the sound of silence, to journey upon that, or whether it is the sound of my own voice that is singing and channeling a spirit song, to enter into even more deeply that space of altered state of consciousness. And I take it from there. And the one thing I want to end this video with, and that is, when you come back from your altered state, it is really, really, really important that you ground yourself. And the way that I ground myself is very, very simple and accessible to anyone and everyone. Number one, eating and drinking. It sounds really, really simple, doesn't it? But it is profoundly helpful. If you are feeling quite spacey after entering into altered states of consciousness, you need to ground yourself. And so one way to do that is to eat something. Particular foods to me, I have found through personal experience, are more grounding than others. Number one, chocolate, cacao. Raw cacao is very, very good. Sometimes you might find that you will need some sugar of sorts. So I personally use honey. Other very good foods to eat when you are feeling ungrounded, I have found, are root vegetables. Now, maybe it sounds obvious to you, maybe it doesn't, but root vegetables, of course, are lodged in the earth when they grow. They are roots themselves. And so I have found that when you are feeling ungrounded, if you have made a soup that includes carrots or parsnips or potatoes, this can be very grounding. And other ways that you might find that you like to engage with, that I commonly do, is stamping your feet. It's a nice way of activating your inner child too. It's particularly great if you want to go outside and stand in the sunshine. I would always recommend. It's particularly great for activating our inner child because when was the last time you stamped your feet? You don't see many adults doing it unless they're trying to shake mud off their boots. Stamping your feet is a way of activating the sensations in the bottoms of your feet, the soles of your feet. So I would highly recommend doing this with shoes off. Another way of doing this without stamping quite so vigorously is to go outside with bare feet. This is, it's so basic, and so often people don't do this. Maybe we don't like the cold, maybe we think it's too spiky outside, but it's exactly in that experience, the little, whether it's stones or whether it's soil or whether it is grass, those sensations on the bottoms of our feet are one way of bringing that awareness back to a place which has the ability to root us again. Bringing your awareness to the soles of your feet is one way of allowing your imagination, your spirit and soul to connect with the physicality of your body, and therewith activating a grounding sensation and a grounding experience in the body. If you do choose to take off your shoes and socks and go and stand outside to ground yourself, then I would highly encourage that you also use the flight of your imagination. Even if you think that you're making it up, it really doesn't matter. Imagination is the bridge to spirit. Spirit flows in on that bridge of imagination. So it is one way that we are able to meet spirit. So I would encourage you to use the flight of your imagination, bringing your awareness all the way to your feet and imagining roots extending out of the soles of your feet, extending deep, 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 deep into the earth beneath you, into Mother Earth beneath you. It is good for you to stay and remain in that position for at least 5 minutes. Longer if you are able to experience the best effects of grounding. It would actually be to be standing there or lying down on the earth for at least 20 minutes. This is from my own experience of the time frame that's needed to actually activate that sense of landing. So, my darlings, that is my answer for today's Ask SoulBird question, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.